With it officially being 2025, it's time for another box office prediction tier list. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. Today I've got my tier list ranking of all the major movie releases in 2025 based on how I think they're going to do at the box office. I did this video at the start of 2024 and had a lot of fun with it, and so I figured why not run it back with 2025. If you want to go rewatch that video and see how accurate my predictions were, you can. I was on with some of them and some I was way off base, but that's kind of the fun of just predicting things, is we really have no clue how a lot of these are going to play out. But before I get into this tier list, hit that like button, comment down below where you think these films will place in the tiers that I have. What will make $1 billion? What will bomb? Let me know that more down below. And of course, subscribe to that notification bell to help reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. But without further ado, let's dive in and I'll explain the tiers once we get there. So the tiers I have are $1 billion or more, $800 to $900 million range. So this will mean a movie can make anywhere from $800 million to $999 million. Then we got $600 million to $700 million. So again, going up to the $799 million range. That's the last time I'll explain that part. Then we got $400 to $500, $200 to $300, and $100 million or less. This can go all the way to $199 million. And again, these are just major releases across all genres, and not every movie that's coming out is on this list. But kickstarting this thing, we've got Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. This is my most anticipated movie of the year, and I believe it will make about $700 million. So I'm going to put it in this tier right here. If you look at Dead Reckoning, it did about $590 million worldwide. Fallout cracked into that $700 million range. So I think with this being marketed as the final Mission Impossible, I believe it will make about $700 million worldwide, which unfortunately could still be classified as a bomb because of the reported budget for this film. It's like massive. I want to say the last time I saw a budget, it was like $300 million. Don't know if that's accurate. Don't hold me to that. But if that rings true, there could be problems for this film before it even releases just because of that monumental budget. So I think this will be a hit with fans, with critics. It could make $700 million, but even then, how much profit will the film make because of how massive that budget is? That's a question and a debate we'll have in a couple months probably. But moving on, we've got Snow White. This is the live-action remake of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, starring Rachel Zegler, Gal Gadot as the evil queen. I would say this will make about $400 million if I had to guess. Live-action remakes are so hit or miss with Disney nowadays. You know, The Little Mermaid underperformed. I thought that was going to do $1 billion just basing that off of, you know, the success of Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King, but The Little Mermaid underperformed. I think this one's going to underperform a bit. I don't know what the expectations are here, but there was a point in time where these Disney live-action remakes of the, you know, the classic films were making $1 billion like every time. You know, Aladdin, The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, and now they've taken a bit of a hit, a bit of a step back. People might be burnt out on them. There's some discourse already surrounding this film, a lot of negativity and toxicity online already surrounding this movie, so I unfortunately think it probably will underperform, but I still think with it having a March release, with it being Snow White, it'll get Disney fans and people who maybe even want to go hate watch the film, unfortunately. It'll get it to at least $400 million in my opinion, but it could totally do $200 to $300 as well. I just have a feeling with being March, with being Disney, it can still get butts and seats, but won't perform as highly as I would have thought maybe 2 or 3 years ago if this movie were to release. Next, we've got a Minecraft movie, which I'm of the belief this will do $1 billion. I'm going to put it in there right now. Minecraft, one of, if not the most popular video games of all time. It is recognizable not only in the US, but in every country. It is played by millions of people, I want to say, to this day. Like, it is so popular that I would be stunned if this movie didn't do $1 billion. I think it looks bad. You've got Jack Black as like a live-action human, the hybrid sort of animation live-action style, a bit strange to me, and neither trailer fully sold me on this movie, but it doesn't matter if this is a good movie. Look at the Super Mario Bros. Movie. To me, that's about as fine of a movie as it can get. Borderline a bad movie, and it still made bank because of the Super Mario Bros. IP. I feel similarly about Minecraft. It's huge globally, and I think this movie is going to rack it up at the box office because of that. Moving on, though, we've got Tron Ares. This is a follow-up to Tron Legacy, which came out in 2010. I ran the numbers on that because I was curious. That did right at $400 million worldwide, so I'm going to say this will be in that $400 to $500 million range. I'll put it above Snow White. There's obviously a Tron film from the 80s. Legacy did fine, but it has like a cult following, and with, you know, the ride at Disney and the buzz for this film, I think it can do $400 million. I mean, look at Beetlejuice. That did about $450 million. Venom: The Last Dance did about $471. So I'm thinking this can be somewhere in that range. I might be going a bit too high on this, as it could definitely, you know, just be about a $350 million film. But I still think there's money to be made here. There will be an audience, and I feel like, people have waited around. The fans of Tron Legacy will show up for this one, and it could probably even win some new folks as well. Next, we got Lilo and Stitch, which is a real interesting one, a real hard one to read. It's got a May release date, I think the same day as The Final Reckoning, which is like May 23rd, so approaching Memorial Day. This could do massive numbers. And that perfect window to sort of kickstart summer movie season. On top of that, there's a huge following for Lilo and Stitch. People my age, who were like young kids when that film came out, right, have grown up with it and might be showing it to their kids now. There are just fans of the character Stitch in general, from, Disney Parks fans to in general. It really has a wide appeal. And a lot of people love that Lilo and Stitch movie. It's like a lot of people's favorite Disney animated film ever. So that audience is going to be there. Plus, the live action remakes historically perform really, really well when they are remaking an original film. The follow-ups are what usually underperform. Like the first Alice in Wonderland movie made $1 billion. The Lion King, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, they all made $1 billion. Could this be the next Disney live action remake to do that? Potentially. It really depends on if the movie is a hit or not. That's what it's going to boil down to. They've done well with the marketing so far. They played ads in front of The Lion King, MUFASA The Lion King, and they catered to it. They did like a New Year's poster, so they're really going in on the marketing. They haven't dropped a full trailer. We haven't seen the humans in the film or any other like creature. We've just seen Stitch, but I think they're doing a good job marketing. I have a feeling this can do 800, 900 million. I'm gonna put it right there right now. I could see it doing around 850 mil, kickstarting summer movie season, being the first smash hit for Disney live action remakes in a hot minute, just because there's a Stitch craze, I swear. And it goes beyond just Disney adults. Like, people grew up loving this character, so people are going to want to go see what are they doing to, my childhood. People will go for various reasons, but Stitch has become an icon to many in many households, so I'm thinking Lilo and Stitch could be a big, big hit this summer. Moving on, we got Mickey 17. This is Bong Joon-ho's first movie post-Oscar win. He directed Parasite, racked up the Oscar wins there. However, I think this movie has box office bomb written all over it. I love Robert Pattinson. Bong Joon-ho is obviously very talented, but I'm going to say that this movie won't even make, it'll make 150 to 190 mil tops, and that'd be great for it. I don't know the budget on this thing, but it's had its delays. It's been delayed time after time after time. The trailer looked very eccentric. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I feel like this movie will alienate some and, be divisive. So I'm going to say 100 mil. The most I see this movie making is like 180. Next, we got Thunderbolts, an MCU flick. These are always going to be kind of high on this list just because historically the MCU's performed really, really well at the box office. The thing about Thunderbolts is it's sort of a first because none of these characters have headlined their own film. You got Bucky, who's obviously been in Captain America films, on Disney Plus shows. Yelena and Red Guardian were introduced in Black Widow. John Walker was introduced in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So there's not like a marquee hero headlining this film, like with a lot of the earlier phase films in the MCU. However, these are familiar faces in the MCU, and with the Marvel Studios logo up front, it's gonna get butts and seats no matter what. I have a good feeling about this film. The trailer was a hit. It drops at the beginning of May, which has been an ideal spot for a lot of MCU films in the past. I look at Guardians 3, it racked up 850 mil with that release date. Obviously, Endgame and Infinity War had the end of April heading into May release date. Those are anomalies because those were such big events. But I look at Thunderbolt, I say, what's stopping this one from making 600-700 million? I'll put it at the top of that over Mission Impossible. I mean, it's going to do well. And if the movie's beloved, which I think it will be, early prediction, a lot of people will say this is one of the freshest MCU films in quite some time. And it's not like in a big event film. It's not a No Way Home. It's not a Deadpool. It's not a Guardians 3 that's closing out a trilogy. It's like a new team up of characters in the MCU, but if the movie's good, word of mouth is there, it can dominate those early weeks of May. I can see this one getting to 600 to 700 million, which is a win, all things considered. Obviously, there was a run of MCU films joining that billion-dollar club or coming damn close. I think this one can still be a success. I have a good feeling about that movie. So moving on, we got Karate Kid Legends. I'm going to go ahead and say this does about 200 to 300 million. If you look at that 2010 Karate Kid film, I think it made around 350 million. And, this film will probably perform similarly or maybe even worse. But you have to factor in the Cobra Kai audience. They're going to want to see this movie. That show ends in February 13th. This movie comes out in May. So about 3 months after the Cobra Kai finale, we're getting a Karate Kid movie. Will this final season in any way, shape, or form try and set up this movie? I doubt it. I feel like they're going to be really disconnected, probably for the better, because I don't have the best feeling about this movie. I don't want it to tank Cobra Kai. But look, when it comes to Karate Kid Legends, you're going to have fans of the original Karate Kid, people who saw the movie in the 80s and that was that and just love that movie, and fans of just Jackie Chan. So this will do well. It will have its audience, but I don't think it's going to be some smash box office hit. It's not going to be a top 10 highest grossing film of the year. It's going to have sort of a built-in audience, fans of Cobra Kai, fans of Karate Kid, but it's not going to have some huge appeal like a Lilo and Stitch, you know what I'm saying? So I would say 200, 300 million, potentially even right at 400, but I don't see this one cracking into like 500 million or higher. That would be insane, honestly. Next, we got Predator: Badlands. Hard to get a read on this film. Prey was not theatrically released. It went straight to Hulu, but it was a success, especially for a straight-to-streaming film. So I'm comparing this film sort of to Alien Romulus in a sense that it is a fresher take on a beloved franchise that's like a horror action hybrid. Alien Romulus did about 350 million worldwide. I look at Predator: Badlands, I'm going to put it in that 200 to 300 million range, probably right about here. I think this movie can totally do 300 to 350 mil, which would comfortably place it here. I still have to watch Prey. I'm a slacker. I hate to admit that. Loved the original Predator when I first watched it. It's only gotten better for me over time. So I'm going to do a Predator series watch through at some point this year to prepare for this movie. But I can see this one landing about 300 mil worldwide, which would be a success because I don't think that it's got that high of a budget. So that's a win right there. Next, we got Captain America: Brave New World, the fourth Captain America film, the first without Steve Rogers. They've been marketing this one out the wazoo over the past few months. I mean, every time I'm watching TV or on YouTube, I see an ad for it. So it's no doubt been in front of people's eyes. People know this movie's coming out. Will they go see it, though? It's got a February 14th release date, so it drops Valentine's Day weekend. It'll be the #1 date movie for sure because it's a new MCU film. Harrison Ford is in it. They really have focused on him in the marketing. He's now playing Thunderbolt Ross, who becomes Red Hulk, obviously. I have a feeling of the 3 MCU movies coming out this year, those being Thunderbolts, this, and Fantastic Four, which we'll talk about later, this one will make the least amount of money. I have a feeling this one will do about 500 million worldwide. It's still got Captain America in the title. It's going to have a massive opening weekend because most MCU movies do, even if they fall off a cliff week 2 and week 3, that opening is there. Look at Quantumania, for example. It opened to over 100 million domestic. I'm going to say high 500. This one can almost reach $600 million because the Captain America title alone, but a lot of people aren't going to want to see this movie because it's not Steve Rogers, it's Sam Wilson, and there's already drama online about how much this has been delayed, and there's always just discourse about things in the MCU, usually in a negative light. So I'm going to say it's got a chance to almost crack into 600 million range, but I'll put it like 550 million worldwide seems about right. That would probably be a win, all things considered. This one's been undergoing reshoot after reshoot, so we'll see what they even put together. It could be a complete mess. It could be a surprise hit. I have no idea how to read this one because of all the delays and because of all the reshoots and behind-the-scenes drama. Moving on, though, we've got The Conjuring: Last Rites, the 4th Conjuring film, believed to be the final of the bunch. I would say this does 200, 300 mil, put it right in the middle there. The Conjuring movies, not like these spin-offs, but the Conjuring movies, I looked, and most of them are like 200, 300 million range. This one might not do as well because I know that people have kind of fallen off with the Conjuring films. The third one, The Devil Made Me Do It, wasn't all that. Plus, it also went to HBO Max at the time, is what it was called, the same day as theaters because it was during the pandemic. I would say 200, 300 million. This is one of the most profitable horror franchises out there. It's one of the biggest with the biggest appeal. And so I imagine that, you know, there's the built-in audience, there are horror fans, and then there are people who are like, ooh, let's go see this new big scary movie. It'll do about 300 mil, I'd say. The Conjuring, again, big name. It's been a couple years since we've had an actual Conjuring film, not a Nun or Annabelle film. So I'd say 300 mil-ish seems about right. Moving on, we got The Accountant 2, 100 million or less. I'm going to put it right here. In fact, I'll actually put it over Mickey 17 because I think it will do a little bit better. You got Ben Affleck. That's going to get you some of an audience already. This movie could do anywhere from like 80 million to 150 million. I don't see it even getting into the 200 millions. It's just not that kind of movie. It'll be on digital like a couple weeks after it comes out. I don't think it's going to be a bad movie. I still haven't seen the first Accountant, but it's just not one of those movies designed to be a smash hit at the theater, in my opinion. So 100 million, 150 million would be good for this film. I don't know what the budget is. I imagine it's not crazy, so I feel like this one will still be a good movie, just won't really be a box office smash. Unlike Avatar: The Way of Water, which will be the highest grossing film of the year. I'm going to put it right there right now. I mean, this is doing $2 billion. I should have added it here for $2 billion. First Avatar is the highest grossing film of all time. Second film is the third highest grossing film of all time. Endgame sandwiched in between those. Avatar: Fire and Ash, just based on people going to see these movies for the visual effects alone will make it $1 billion. But these movies are events in a sense that you got to go see them for the visuals and the buzz, but no one's going to talk about it until the next one comes out. There's no long-standing impact with these movies, so it'll do $2 billion. Especially overseas, it does numbies, so pretty comfortable in putting that at the top of this entire tier list. Next, we have Wicked for Good, Wicked Part 2. I'm going to say 600, 700 mil for this one. Probably put it like right. Honestly, I kind of want to go at the top. I think I will. It's at about 640 million worldwide right now, the first movie. And that's just going to keep climbing. I think it gets up to about 700 million by the end of its theatrical run. So Part 2, I think, does just as good, if not better. All year, people are going to have the chance to watch the first film. They're also going to have the chance to rewatch it if they've already seen it. And with the soundtrack being on Spotify, people are going to listen to it all year long. There's going to be a lot of buzz coming for Wicked for Good, especially if the first film gets a lot of Oscar noms, which it's looking like it's going to. If it wins some Oscars, now we're talking. I mean, it could do 800 mil for all we know, Part 2. So Wicked for Good, I'm going to say, gets 700 mil, at least worldwide. It comes out in the fall, same weekend that the first movie did this past year. It's set up for success right around Thanksgiving, but has the long legs that people will, wait around to see this one on Christmas. Everyone who went and saw the first movie and saw To Be Continued at the end are going to say, well, damn, I got to go next year, So same time next year, folks, this one's going to do about the same, if not a little better, in my opinion, 600, 700 million worldwide. Moving on, we got Saw XI, Saw 11. I always put these on here. I'm wearing my Jigsaw shirt right now. This will not do crazy numbers. It'll do about 100 mil, little over. That's what Saw X did, about 112 million. So I'm going to put this right here. It's got its built-in audience. There's a Saw fandom. That audience will show out for this movie. They always do. I'm a part of it, frankly. This movie's going to make its money back. It's very low budget. It's going to make over 100 mil, which is a huge win for horror and for Saw movies. I hope it's just as good or better than Saw X, though, because I think this is going to be the second of a trilogy set between Saw and Saw 2. So sign me the hell up for that. Moving on, we got Nobody 2. Nobody didn't even make 100 million, the first film, but because it was so low budget, it made its money back and got a sequel greenlit. I'm going to put this in 100 million or less. Again, probably going to go like right here in the back of the tier. I just think of those movies in there right now, it probably has the least chance to make the most money. Bob Odenkirk, people know who he is, especially if you watch Better Call Saul, but in terms of movies, people might not know him as much. He's more of a TV guy, especially because he spent all those years on Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So I love Bob Odenkirk. He's the man. The first Nobody was a fun movie, but it wasn't some smash hit, so we'll see. This one could creep its way to 100 mil. We'll have to wait and find out. Next, we got Jurassic World Rebirth. Very confident this film will make $1 billion. Here's why. The last three have, and most of them were stinkers. I'll put it right here, right behind Avatar: The Way of Water. Oh, Avatar: Fire and Ash, sorry. Jurassic World Rebirth, you got Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, Jonathan Bailey, who's riding this high from Bridgerton and Wicked right now, comfortably in the $1 billion tier for me. It comes out in July. Overseas, these movies do numbies. In the US, these movies do numbies. It's Jurassic. It's the dinosaur franchise. It will do $1 billion. Book it. Moving on, we got Freakier Friday, a follow-up to a film that came out in 2003 with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis returning. This one has, again, I keep saying it, a built-in audience. People who grew up on Freaky Friday will show up for this. I don't see it doing crazy numbers, but honestly, I got a weird feeling this one will just sniff 200 million. I don't know why that is, but I have a weird feeling this one could do 200 million. However, I'm just going to put it at the top of this tier to be safe. I think it could get to like 150, 180, maybe 200 worldwide, but that would be a big success in my opinion. I'll go with about, 100 to 150 million for Freakier Friday, which given the budget, it shouldn't have a crazy big budget. That will probably be a financial success, all things considered. Moving on, we got John Wick, Ballerina from the world of John Wick, whatever it's called. Ana de Armas is the star of this film, and Keanu's John Wick is going to have a role, but he's not going to be like the main character, obviously. I would say, based on the success of John Wick Chapter 4, I'll say anywhere from 200 to 300 million worldwide. It won't be as easy to sell because John Wick's not the front man, but it still is a part of this world. So I'll honestly put it at the top of 200 to 300 million because this one could do 300, 350. And again, this tier encompasses anything from 200 to 399. So I could see it doing 350 mil worldwide, but it won't outperform John Wick Chapter 4 because John Wick's not the front man, and that's kind of the selling point of that franchise. It could also bomb. There's really no telling. Sometimes spin-offs and franchises do underperform, so we'll see what the case is here. Next, we got Superman, one of the most anticipated films of the year across the board. I think it was number 6 on my list. Again, check out my top 10. It's linked up above. But, I mean, let's think about this. I think Man of Steel did 500 to 600 worldwide. That was the first Superman film in a while, but we're at a point in time now where the reputation of DC has been tarnished greatly by the DCEU, And a lot of people might just say, to hell with it. I'm done with DC. So very hard to gauge this. There's a competitive July month that it comes out in, so it could get overshadowed by Jurassic and then later Fantastic Four, which again we'll talk about in a second. So don't like that. If it came out at the end of that run, might be better for it, because I feel like audiences are gonna go see Jurassic and Fantastic Four over Superman. But I have faith in James Gunn. I think it'll be a really good movie. Word of mouth's gonna be huge here. Superman, one of the most iconic, if not the superhero of all time, the most iconic one, right? So this is really hard to gauge. I'm gonna just say, you know what, I'm gonna put it in 400 to 500 at the top, because I think it will reach 550 million worldwide, but I don't know if it's going to have the long legs because of how competitive that month's gonna be. Jurassic and Fantastic Four could overshadow it. I think this movie does 570 to 590 mil worldwide, could even reach 600, but I don't see it going for, 600, 700, 800. I don't think it gets to that level, just because of the general sort of distrust in DC by the normal movie-going audience. I know we're going to see it, the diehards movie fans out there, right? The comic book movie lovers, but the common moviegoer, will they buy a ticket to see this movie? Very difficult to say. I also look at the Batman, though, and that did about, 800 mil? 770, I want to say. I don't know where I just pulled that number from, but it could definitely, get up into 600 to 700. I look at what comes out that month. Not everything can make tons of money. I will stand by it. I'll say 570 to 590 mil worldwide. That's just kind of where I'm gauging it right now. Next, we got How to Train Your Dragon, the live-action remake. I'm going to say this movie does numbies, and the reason being, the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy was a smash hit. I was looking at it, the highest grossing of the three was the second film, which did about $621 million worldwide. How to Train Your Dragon has become beloved. It's one of the prestige animated trilogies, one of the best animated films, the first one, out there. And so people love this series. They're also launching Epic Universe in Universal, which is the new park, the new theme park that is. People are gonna want to watch this movie because there's a How to Train Your Dragon land there. So this movie's gonna be marketed really well. It is the first live action remake for a DreamWorks film, and kind of harkening back to the point I made about Disney live action remakes, it's a remake of the first How to Train Your Dragon. Firsts always do better. The Lion King, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, not the sequels. Like Mufasa didn't do as well. Alice in Wonderland 2 didn't do as well. It's the first How to Train Your Dragon being remade. It could be a shot-for-shot remake. People will be pleased, all right? A portion of people will. I'm skeptical about the movie being good, but I'm guaranteeing the success of the box office. It's got a June release. June's not as crammed of a month as July. This one does, I'm tempted to go 800 mil. I'll stop myself. I'll go top of 600 to 700 mil. But that movie is going to be a smash hit. It is. And it would not surprise me if it somehow did $1 billion. Wouldn't surprise me. I'll say it does 700 to 750 million. So I have it at the top of that tier right now. But man, it would not surprise me if this one did 800, 900, or joined the $1 billion club, because again, it's the first live action remake of a beloved animated film. Moving on though, we've got The Running Man. This film stars Glenn Powell. It's a remake of the Arnold film from the 80s, and I believe it's directed by Edgar Wright. I'll have to do some digging there, but it's really hard to gauge this one. I would say this is the kind of movie that does about 180 million worldwide. I'm comparing it to The Fall Guy. Seem like they have similar vibes. That movie's got Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt. Glenn Powell's a big star, don't get me wrong. With it being a November release around the fall, there's just bigger movies people are going to go see, so I think it does about 180, tops 200 mil, so I'm going to put it right here. I think of the films in this bottom tier, it has the chance to do the best, but about 180 is what I'm gauging it at right now. Could be way off base, though. Hard to read a Glenn Powell movie. Those things seem to have crazy long legs. Look at Twisters, look at Anyone But You. He's a movie star in the making, and damn near is like the new movie star, so wouldn't surprise me if this one did 300 mil, honestly. Next, we got Elio. This is an original film from Pixar. A lot of their original films as of late haven't hit with audiences as much. Elemental was a surprise, though, because it started out a bit slower, had good word of mouth, and I think creeped up to about 400, 450 million worldwide. With it being a Pixar film, with it, being released in June, I want to say, don't hold me to that, I'm going to put this in the 200 to 300 million range, actually at the top. Pixar still has wide appeal, and following the success of Inside Out 2, this is their next film, maybe, they've won a lot of people back over. It's Pixar. You always have to bet on Pixar. Even in the down years, Pixar still has a way to make a movie that lands with audiences and just touches the heart. That is important for Elio. Will it have that factor where people are raving about it? It's pleasing families and they're telling other families. It needs to have that word of mouth. Will it be like a family-friendly hit? That's important. And if it is, it could get to 400 mil, but I'm going to say 200 to 300 for Elio. Seems about right. Moving on, though, we've got Fantastic Four. This ends the month of July. This is the biggest MCU movie coming out this year and the most important for the future of the franchise, the whole entire cinematic universe, that is. The cast alone kind of has me sold. Pedro Pascal, Joseph Quinn, Evan Moss Backrack, Vanessa Kirby. 2 of those 4 have this built-in audience that are diehards for them. Ride or dies. Joseph Quinn and Pedro Pascal have some of the biggest fan clubs on social media you'll ever see. Like, they are diehard fans. So people who would normally not go see an MCU movie are going to see this just for Pedro Pascal, just for Joseph Quinn. Then you factor in the MCU audience. Of all the MCU movies coming out this year, this is the one that someone who's kind of on the fence about the MCU is going to go see if they had to pick one. Then you factor in the fact that, hey, it's a big superhero movie in July. Everyone knows who the Fantastic Four are. Love or hate the movies we've gotten so far, this one will be marketed the best. It'll look the most unique. This is pretty much going to be a hit. I'm pretty confident saying that. This is going to do about 850 to 900 million. Wouldn't surprise me at all if it joined the $1 billion club. I think it outperforms Superman. I'll revisit this at the end of the year and see if I'm right or wrong, but I'm going to say 800, 900 million. I'm going to put it at the top of that tier just because that cast is big, and all they have to do, hear me out, all they have to do to guarantee they want this movie's success, put Robert Downey Jr. in the trailer. He could be in the post-credit scene. He could be in 5 minutes of the movie. But if you end your first or second trailer with the RDJ Doom reveal, that is guaranteeing this movie another $100 to $200 million. Just because people who don't even give a damn, people who literally just went to the theater to see Infinity War Endgame but saw no other MCU movies will be like, oh my gosh, I have to go see Fantastic Four. It's the talk of the town. People want to be a part of the club. People want to be in on the conversation. Fantastic Four is one of those movies people want to be in on the conversation on, especially if RDJ is back. And if he's not, I still think it does well. I believe in this movie. I do. I think it's going to really set the MCU in the right direction heading into 26 and 27 with Doomsday and Secret Wars. And so I'm going to ride with it until it proves me wrong. I think Fantastic Four is a smash hit this year. Next, we got Michael. This is the Michael Jackson biopic. Hard to get a read on, but it has a chance to do big time numbers around the world. Michael Jackson, one of the biggest music pop stars ever. And so a movie about his life, people are probably going to show up for, people who normally wouldn't go to the movies all that much. I'm going to say Michael does 500 mil worldwide, maybe even more. I'm going to put it somewhere in the middle of this tier. I'll put it like right here, if I can get it to go. There we go. I'd say, yeah, this one's really difficult to read, and this is the one that I could be way off base on in either direction. It could do 200 mil, it could do $1 billion. There's no telling. Michael Jackson is huge. Next, we got Now You See Me 3. It's been a while since the last Now You See Me movie. I looked it up. The first one did about 350 mil, I want to say, and the second did a little more, a little less, but I'd say this one's kind of par for the course, and we'll do the same. I'll put it right here in the middle of that tier. Now You See Me has its audience, and it's probably going to win some more people over with the cast returning. A lot of people will probably watch Now You See Me 1 and 2 for the first time this year to prep for this. I've only seen the first one, never fully watched the second one, so I'm going to be there. I'll be checking it out. They're just cool magic movies if they market it well. Yeah, I'd say 350 million is definitely on the table for this one. Moving on, we've got FNAF 2. The first Five Nights at Freddy's came out in the fall of 2023. It did about $290 million worldwide. However, it's very important to note, it also dropped on Peacock on the same exact day, and it still made that much money. This one's not going to do that. It's going to go straight to theaters, and if I had to be honest here, I would say this does maybe a little better, because all the people who were like, no, we're not going to go buy a ticket to the theater, we're going to watch it on Peacock, they're going to go to the theater and see this one if they were fans. Now, I don't think that first movie was really good. My fear for this franchise is it's almost too niche. It's only going to cater to fans of the FNAF games, because that FNAF movie, in my opinion, certainly didn't win anyone over. It was not well received by critics. I was not a fan. I don't know many people who were a fan. And so to me, these films are just made for the gamers of FNAF. They don't have a real big audience appeal, whereas something like I think Sonic does, or Mario, for example, does. You don't have to play all the games, but you can still go see the movies because you have a familiarity with the characters, right? This is almost too inside baseball. You have to know too much about FNAF, and because of that, I feel like it alienates itself from the general movie-going population. I was not a fan of that first. I think this one still is a success. I'll put it in 200 to 300 million range, probably like right about here, right in the middle. And last on this list, I've got Zootopia 2. Disney sequels usually perform well. Moana 2 is over 900 million globally right now, and I think the movie's a massive drop-off in quality when compared to Moana 1. This movie could stink, doesn't matter. Zootopia is a big name. It drops around Thanksgiving time. I think Thanksgiving week of this year. The audience is going to be there. It's going to have long legs. The first Zootopia made $1 billion. Any sequel to $1 billion film's got to be on the radar. I'm not confident in saying this one does $1 billion, but I think it could be the Moana 2 effect where it's got long legs and it does 900 mil. So I'm going to put it at the top of 800, 900 mil. I could see this one almost pulling a Despicable Me 4 from this past year and doing like $970 million worldwide, just shy of the $1 billion club, but it's going to be a smash hit. I don't see it fully joining the $1 billion club because the first movie didn't convincingly make $1 billion. It was like near the bottom tier of that. I think it's like 1.02 or 1.03 bill. So it's not like it made 1.7 bill like Inside Out 2. It was just barely in the $1 billion club. So I think this one's a bit of a drop off from that, but still a smash hit. If you make $800, $900 million, your movie's a smash hit. Zootopia 2 is probably going to be there. But that's my tier list ranking of all the major 2025 movies based on how I think they're going to do at the box office. Let me know in the comments down below your predictions. What do you think will be in what tier? Hit that like button and of course subscribe and hit that notification bell. But stay tuned for more content coming very soon. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.